This is a review of using the random function to create variables to animate shapes. The goal is to create a shape that moves at a random speed each time the program is run. So to start off with, we need to create that variable that will store the random value. As the random function returns decimal values, we need to use a float variable, and I'll call it float speed and label that as speed of the shape. In setup, I should probably include a size, and then I will initialize the speed, my new speed variable, by saying speed equals random, and the first parameter of the random function is the lowest possible value that the speed variable will hold, and the second parameter is the highest value. So together they're the range. So if I say 0.5 as the possible lowest value that speed could have, and let's say 3, well, let's go fast, let's say 5, then speed, every time the program runs, speed will have a value somewhere between 0.5 and 5. Now, how to use this in my program. If I want to animate this ellipse, which is located at on the left side of the screen, I know that I ultimately will need an equation, and the equation, as always, ends up being the new location equals the old location plus the speed. So there's nothing new there. That's always been the formula for creating the equation to animate a shape. But right now, the location on the x-axis for this ellipse is 50. It's located at 50 pixels over, 200 pixels down. If I want to change the x location, I can't do that if I'm using a static number, 50. I need to use a variable. But is speed the variable I want to use there? No, we've just said the speed variable is in fact the speed that we want the shape to move at. So we need another variable that represents the location, the current location of the shape. So because we're moving along the x-axis, I'm going to say float x is my variable name. That's location of ellipse. And then I want to make sure to actually use x here in my ellipse function. And I also need to initialize it. I could initialize it just in line here. Float x equals, that starting value is 50, so I'm going to stick with that. I also could initialize it down here in setup, x equals 50. It's the same exact thing. This is just a little bit of a shortcut. So now I've got my location and I've got my speed, even though I don't know what the speed is. So I'm going to write that equation. X equals x plus speed. New location equals old location plus the speed. So let's see, the first time I run it, it's moving pretty quickly. Let's see if it'll move slower this time. Yeah, now it's moving slower. So that first time speed got a higher value assigned to it, and the second time it got a lower value. Now, to take this, the next step is to make two shapes race. To do that, I'm going to actually maybe give this a fill, make it easier to see. To do that, I have an entire separate shape that it will have its own speed value. So it's moving at its own location at its own speed, which means that I need two more variables to make this work. If I reuse the x location, they will both start at the same. If I reuse the x location, I'll be adding speed to the same position, and if I reuse speed, they'll always have the same speed. So in order for them to move independently of one another, I need to have two more variables. So I'm going to say float speed 2 and float x2, and I'll have them start at the same location on the x-axis, and they'll move independently of one another. So this is speed of second ellipse, location of second ellipse. Now, it doesn't matter where I put the shape function and the equation here, but I'll just put a new fill. I guess I'll have this one be red for the second ellipse, and then at this ellipse I need to use x2, and then I don't want it on the same place on the y-axis. They'll be on top of each other, so I'll put this one down maybe at like 350, and I'll make it the same size. And then I'll put the equation for this one down here as well. x2 equals x2 plus speed 2. Oh, I have forgotten something very important. If I play now, it's going to be one shape not moving. Do you know why? What did I forget to do with speed 2? I initialized x2 as having a value of 50, so that's starting location, but I did not initialize speed 2. So the default speed, if you don't initialize a variable, a float or integer variable, it'll just get 0. So right now I'm adding a speed of 0 onto the location of my second shape, so it is going to stay there forever. So to remedy this, I need to say speed 2 equals random, and I can put any parameters in here I want. I'll make it a fair fight. I'll give them an equal chance of getting a fast speed. So speed of second ellipse. Now, so that red one's finally moving. So this is how you can use a total of 4 variables and 2 random functions to animate 2 shapes so they race. I'm going to make a second video to talk about how to check to see if one quote unquote wins the race by crossing a finish line first, but I'll end this one here.